Hey guys, Wolfie here. This is part 3 of 3 for the calendar preview for the City of Final Fantasy Opera Amiel Global. This is the 28th of January 2021. You're kind of wondering 3 of 3, what's going on. Now, this is the video where I do once every 6 months. I go into the good, the bad, suggestions to improve, overall thoughts. And this is the global side of the game because, as you guys know, I only play global because of what I do for a living at work. Now, with that bit out of the way, I'm doing part 3 a lot differently than in the past. Now, with that, the reason why I'm here, the reason why I'm doing it like this as opposed to, you hear the DFFOO music in the background usually is because, there's something extremely important I want to show you guys, for this particular portion. It is in my, I have my notes. It's under the suggestions to improve. So, and that deserves a little section of its own because it's extremely important with improve how the game can improve its sense of the community, growing the player base, that sort of thing. Now, with that bit out of the way, before I get into the disclaimer, I'm wearing my prescription glasses. These are not the computer-like glasses I sometimes wear. These are my actual prescription. I do not have my contacts on me, so you have to bear with me here. So, with that bit out of the way, the usual disclaimer here applies. Any opinion in this video is my opinion and my opinion only. So I'm going to go over, I do it in the order of my notes. And that is, the good, the bad, suggestions to improve. I'm going to finish this, with the overall thoughts because there's some stuff, I really want to say. Now, regarding the whole thing with Balthier LD first for global, I will have a completely separate video on that, and it's going to be more as 100% opinion unit on my end, and I'm just going to, go into why I don't think he was that good of a choice, and in that video is like, why Fang and Zack were the better picks, that sort of thing, as opposed to Balthier. So, with that bit out of the way, hey, we're just going to jump right into this. So, when it comes down to some of the things I enjoy, over the, coming up for the 3rd anniversary, again, this is one of those videos I do once every 6 months, so expect the next one, of this kind to be towards the end of July or the beginning of August. Provided I'm still playing the game by then. Now, one of the things I really, really enjoyed was the fact that Arenea's rerun event came, around to global around the summertime. Now, granted, it's not the full rerun, but the fact that global did a rerun for her event is a really, really good thing. And the reason why I say it like that is because we didn't have to wait as long for the rerun event to show up for global. Meaning that, if you remember Beatrix, she was the first global first character. Now, we had to wait around a year for her rerun event to show up, and then another year for her lost chapter. So, it's a bit of like, okay, let's don't have as big of a gap. Now, we do know that Arenea's full event rerun should be coming to global a little later on this year, so I'm excited to see that. I'm excited to see, Rem and Prompto, that's a spoiler, global. Rem and Prompto both being part of the synergy for the event proper. Now, with that bit out of the way, the one thing I have come to enjoy as a global only player, like I said, I only play global because of what I do for a living. If I were to play both global and JP, I'd be out of a job. That's all I have to say on that. So, some of the quality of life aspects that came to global a lot sooner than anticipated, that's the real icing on the cake. This is why global is special in its own right, because there's some stuff on global that, we get a lot sooner than anticipated. Now, if you look at the co-ops, they came with and by that the co-ops, they came with the some of the ultimate Esper trials. I'm glad that showed up a lot sooner on global, as a way to get more resources, that sort of thing. I particularly enjoy that. Now, the thing is, like, when it comes down to the limited time aspects for dimensions and entropy, yeah, like I said, I've yet to try it. It's because of work, and lately it's been just like combination of work and varying health and life issues on my end. So I simply don't have time to really get into it because I have other things outside of the game that are far more important for me to tackle. But the fact that there's like limited time aspects, the way they did it for global, that's a real treat. Reward the people who are actually putting in the work. Now, with the pacing as of late, I do feel that global is slowing it down somewhat. Because it's like, I've noticed in the more recent months where some of the global content is not coming out as, like, sudden as expected, meaning that we're not getting as many months where it feels overwhelming. And the fact that this could be a benefit to those who are behind somewhat or even new to the game. Meaning that this could really help them out in the long run. Now, with the stream rewards, I've noticed, it's getting a little bit better. And that needs to be kept up because people are going to be comparing global to JP. And with, JP, they're having their laws on loot boxes and microtransactions. That's a completely separate video if I were to get around to that. So I think as global is starting to keeping at pace with JP since it's the stream rewards, which is really good. Now for the Abyss, which is global exclusive. I like the fact it's there, but it's also an area of concern, which I will get to a little bit later. Now, the switch from global first units to LD first for global, that's a nice switch because you don't have to wait as long. Now, from my understanding on the matter regarding Vivi, the first LD first character, his LD is coming up on JP in the relatively near future, if it's not on JP as of yet. Meaning that it's going to come back to global at a later date. So for us, it's like we get it more than one chance to do it. Get it. Now, with that, when it comes down to following the JP timeline, I do feel that global is following it a little bit more closely than ever before. Now, which is a good thing because it's not so much a predictability per se, but it's more along in conjunction with the pacing, meaning that global's not getting too much too soon, but at the same time, it's where it's this is pretty much global following the JP, sense of this is what we're getting, this is around the time frame, etc., etc. With that bit out of the way, I'm going to go into the areas of concern. Now, like I said maybe a minute or two ago, that when it comes down to the Abyss, we don't really see anything for it unless it's the limited time. Now, I'm starting to worry a little bit about, is global going to get any more permanent Abyss strata, I should say? Because if not, I do feel that the whole thing with Abyss, Normalis, and a Perfectum, I feel it is a waste of time. Because if you're only doing limited time aspects instead of adding more strata to it, it's just it's a big slap in the face for global. And honestly, it's is it really worth it? Probably not. Now, one of the biggest concerns I have here, and this has been kind of going on for global for as long as I can remember, is the element of foresight. Now, I'm not at the point the reason why I'm like this right now. I'm not at that point yet. But global and the whole thing with foresight, it is extremely concerning to me because you're looking at things that are like based on technology, and the fact that global's like not really looking into it ahead of time. It's like people have to wait. And sometimes they may have to go jump ship and go to another game as a result of poor foresight on the global end. I mean, I am very not sorry for saying it like this, but I have to say it. Now, another concern of mine is a lack of moderators on the streams and a lack of a person to interact with the community on Twitter and Facebook. This kind of tells me as an individual player that you don't care if somebody goes into name calling. You don't care if somebody gets belittled because they're going after a character that's not considered meta, and you have others that are saying some really nasty stuff, or going along the lines of saying you're going to be missing out on this, that, or that, XYZ. Which has happened to some of us on more than one occasion. And unless more of the content creators really start stepping up and addressing this is going to be one of the bigger things that makes global look really bad. And it's something I don't want to say, but it's something I have to say. Now, the whole thing with the third anniversary, as there's a particular part of the third anniversary, and this is in conjunction with the abundance of bundles I've been seeing as of late. The fact that it's more and more bundles. I cannot help but wonder if the game is becoming more pay-to-play friendly. Now, the reason why I am a little worried about this particular aspect is because you're looking at a potential problem in the financial aspect of the game, meaning that are they not getting enough funds? And having more and more of these bundles pop up, it is starting to concern me whether or not this game really is free-to-play friendly, as people have been advocating, or is it starting to become pay-to-play friendly? Because, again, with the third anniversary stuff where you get like a 10% on your gems with the bundle purchases you make, and that's not even right away with that quote-unquote cash back on the gems, I cannot help but start to worry, is this game in financial trouble? Because if it is, and they're not saying anything about it, this may scare new players away really fast. Now, another concern of mine, and this is kind of recent, was like some aspects of communication. Now, the reason why this is a bit concerning to me is for a reason you might be surprised with, and it was that the more recent instance where you had the game server go down for nearly a day. And the reason why I'm concerned about the communication, because there was barely anything from DFFOO Global. Now, the way some of us found out is through JP and through servers that host other games that are from Square Enix. Now, the reason why the communication is starting to become a bit concerning because we had to find out through other means, and Global has to really start stepping up on communication when it comes to issues that cost people a day's worth of, grinding, whatever. And in bad communication, you're going to lose customers. That's all there is to it. Now, all this kind of comes into the aspect of repeating past mistakes. Because it's like, Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Why haven't I learned? And that's the thing that Global really has to start taking into consideration. It's like, they have to start stepping some stuff up. And no, I don't want to hear from the White Knights blindly defending every decision this game is making. Because some of the decisions this game has been making as of late are not good by any means. Now, with that a bit out of the way, part of the concern I have is on the community itself. Now, for those of you who are blindly defending the game, blindly defending the decision making this game has had, it is time to stop. Because we're seeing issues resurface. We are seeing the game making the same mistakes. Now, the fact that some of you like to belittle others for pointing out valid criticism is hitting a sour note with me. And if you're not allowing those who are providing valid, very valid criticism, then no one should be saying a single word at all. Because the longer the belittling, the blindly defense of the game goes on, the game's going to continue to be as it is. And that's got to stop. Now, for these suggestions and areas to improve. Now, some of these, I'm going to be sounding like a broken record, but some of it comes along the lines of improving the potential financial situation. Now, one of those ways is having a YouTube channel where it's just the news from the monthly reports, because we know that JP has something like this for their side of the game. I don't see any reason Global cannot have this. And don't hit me up with that whole Twitch stuff, because the Twitch videos, they don't last forever. They have a certain period of time, then it goes away. And for Square Enix, the Global side of the game, with the help with the revenue, you could do the whole thing where you stream on Twitch first, then you could transfer the videos onto YouTube. There's no reason why this is not happening on Global, because that is easy revenue you're missing out on. Now, the Amazon device compatibility, this needs to happen, because we're going to get into why I have this video the way I have it. And that is the 64-bit compliance aspect for Android devices. Now, as some of us may or may not know, when it comes down to the Android versus iPhone in a sense of revenue, the majority from the previous video I've done on the matter, where it comes down to the revenue the game's been getting, most of the revenue is coming from the Android devices as opposed to iPhone, even though iPhone has arguably the bigger numbers of the number of players. Now, I actually have the article ready to go, and we're just going to look at this together. So I'm going to have this particular article in the link in the description below. Now, you notice how I'm wording it, 64-bit compliance. The kind of the term used here in this article is 64-bit requirements, which is one and the same in my personal opinion. Now, you see here the title of this particular article, Google details upcoming 64-bit requirement for Android apps on the Play Store. So this does affect DFFOO Global. And depending if you also have it on JP, them too. Now, mind you, the article itself is from January 2019. However, it does have some stuff that's coming up later on this year. And this is why this section deserves its be in this particular video, because this is the foresight Global's going to need to get their hands on. So, we're just going to skim through part of it. Now, this is the information right here. Now, it says here at this particular section right here, Android has supported 64-bit CPUs since 5.0 Lollipop, and the Play Store in 2017. that sort of thing. Now, in August 2019, which is about a year and a half ago, the Play console will require that all new apps and updates that include a native code provide 64-bit versions. Google's not removing 32-bit support with continued play functionality in the future. So, this is that. Now, this is part of the other reasoning. Now, you may have to pause the video to take a screenshot because of the bit at the far right of the screen, which is, basically, now let me take off my glasses because I do have to look into this really quickly. So I'm going to pause this video. I'll be right back. Okay, so I'm back. Like I said, I'm in my prescription glasses, not in my contacts. So basically, what's going on in August of 2021, which is about a little more than 6 months away, it's basically saying that any app, including default updates, must include 64-bit, the 64-bit version, and any it says here it stops serving not 64-bit to 64-bit capable devices. So that's pretty much what it's saying. Now, again, like I said, this is one of those items where Global has a golden opportunity to say something about this right now. And if they don't, this is going to be all on Global developers, because this is the foresight you see down there. And this may lose players because of negligence. Now, this is something that none of us want, but it's probably going to happen if it continues. Now, when it comes to that, improving the foresight, improving communication, now we do need mods for the Twitch streams, because honestly, there needs to, be some people saying, hey, you might refrain from saying this or saying that. Because seeing the last Twitch stream suggesting somebody to quit for whatever reason, that says to some people that one might be blindly defending the game. And again, to those who are blindly defending the game, aka the White Knights, that needs to stop. Because for some that are content creators, we have the ability to voice this sort of thing. And if we are not voicing this sort of thing, we're saying that everything is going just fine as it is. And that needs to stop. Now, with that bit all out of the way, I think I managed to get to most of what I wanted to say. Now, there needs to be somebody from Square Enix that interacts with the community on social media, because honestly, right now it's a bit of a free-for-all, because you have people say, yo, you should just go quit, whatever, for any reason, because I've been on the receiving end of that sort of statement. I should just quit, and at the time, I was bringing in suggestions for the game to improve using another game. Because why not try something from another game as to help improve the whole thing for DFFOO? And the whole thing with the White Knights, we got to stop that. The White Knights have got to stop what they're doing. Now, the whole thing with about the year LD first, instead of things that come to Global early, I would suggest for the Global developers to mix things up a little bit, because I love the fact that Kane got to reworks on Global early. But it seems that Global is picking certain games for things that come to Global earlier than some of the rest. And this is kind of a bad thing, because it's like, we want to play our favorites, but it's not from certain entries. And if we have to continue benching certain people for that reason, it may show some favoritism, and that favoritism's got to stop. Because if you're using anybody from certain entries almost all the time, because if you look at the LD first thing, the whatever first, either LD or character first, seems to be from some of the same entries, meaning that you look at Final Fantasy IX, Kuja's global debut was early. Vivi got the his LD on global early. Beatrix was global first character, so you have 3 items from Final Fantasy IX. Excuse me. Then if you look at Final Fantasy 15, that's another one where Aranea was the second global first character. Then you have Noctis's EX realization coming out to global a little bit early. Then you have Final Fantasy 4. I mean, granted, Final Fantasy 4 is one of my personal favorite entries, but you have Dark Knight Saints, I believe it's his EX realization. Then you have Kain in the early rework. So it's like it seems to be too much focus on certain entries to get certain aspects earlier than others, because when it comes to games like 13, the only thing that came to global early from 13 was Snow's Lost Chapter. And it was because of Beatrix being a global first character that things global debut was pushed back to March. So the thing is, it's like for global, I would really highly recommend, mix it up a little bit. Instead of giving it from characters from certain entries all the time, that's what it seems to be like. Just to mix it up, maybe like get something to Lightning a little bit early, or let's see here. I'm trying to think here because I just saw this on JP on like some JP footage. Somebody from 14 getting something early, something like that. I mean, something from the not as known entries. A little mix it up there, because honestly, people want to use their favorites, but if it's from the same entries almost every single time, you're going to be alienating some players. And for a community that's kind of small, and yes, I actually have to call it as such, it's not going to serve the game good in the long term. It is what it is at the end of the day on that. Now, I'm actually looking here, so there's some stuff I have here, regarding, there is some stuff I have here in my notes. I mean, I put that as a maybe, but I'm not going to reveal that because it'll be just too heartless for me. Now, for the overall, thoughts here, I do think that DFFOO got a better end of the deal when it comes down to the 2nd anniversary to the 3rd anniversary, but they're not completely innocent. Because if you look at FFBE, that sort of thing, it's just like, it's just and that part of my language for saying this, but FFBE was in a real clusterfuck. However, FFBE, Final Fantasy Brave Exvius, still has the numbers to this day. Now, if anyone were to ask me which game has a better chance of survival for the long term between FFBE, although I no longer play it, and DFFOO, I'm going to have to give it to FFBE, because they seem to start stepping things up in key areas where DFFOO needs to improve on by a big shot. And the fact that DFFOO does not have any format of mods for the streams and someone to interact with the community, this actually hurts on a long-term basis, because it's saying that you don't really care. And the fact that the whole thing with the Apollo Gem aspect, that really needs to be stepped up. I forgot to mention this in the suggestions to improve, but the lack of improvement on the Apollo Gem aspect is saying that you don't care about your community, and it needs to, be said. Now, the whole fact that you have a first rerun for Aranea, whose full event should be coming to global in the near future. I like the fact that there's a bit, the gap is somewhat closed. And the reason why I like that closing of the gap is because you don't have to wait as long. And that is always a good thing, close the gap a little bit, that way, people have at least more than one additional chance. Now, with the bundles, I am in a little bit of fear that this game is becoming more pay-to-play friendly than free-to-play. Some people can argue about that, but with the abundance of bundles, something doesn't feel right, and it concerns me to no end. I'm not going to get into the exact reasoning, but that is what it is. What it is. Now the community, we need to step up our game, meaning that we can say certain things, but we have to be careful with who we say certain things to. Because all the belittling, people can look stuff up pretty fast and ridicule you for doing so. And for the those who are now actually I'm going to scratch that. And the whole thing with the pacing, this could help the community, the player base growth. It could hurt. It's a matter of a wait and see. Now, when it comes down to the Apollo Gems aspect of it, I'm going to revisit this right now and quick. But we need to expect better. Because if we're saying things are great as it is, nothing's going to change. And this will hurt the community in the long term. Now, with that, my overall my final thoughts is that DFFOO could very well be stuck between a rock and a hard place. You got so much going on, but also nothing at the same time. And as a community, we need to be holding the global development team accountable for everything. Just because we're getting certain things does not necessarily have to mean that we accept it as it is. And to belittle whoever for whatever reason, that needs to stop. Because you're only going to scare the community away, and this game will be dead on arrival. But with that all out of the way, I do want to end this on a happier note. Global is, from my understanding, switching things up, but sometimes you gotta be careful with even that. And that's all I have to say for this particular video. So with Wolvie here, signing off, I will catch you all on the flip side.